It reeks of wine. That bard has just been through here, hasn't he?
What's going on, guys? It's Trevito back again with another in-depth guide. Our favorite alcoholic Animo Archon is returning for his 4th rerun, and I personally am excited to talk about him. Whether you know him by Tone Deaf Bard, Barbados, Wind Daddy, or any other of his endless nicknames, VENTI has a ton of functionality to bring to your team comps. In this guide, I will discuss his playstyles, talents, artifacts, best weapons, team comps, and rotations. By the time you leave this video, you will not only know exactly how to build your VENTI, but have a full understanding of his playstyle and team utility. Make sure to stay to the end because for the first time ever, I will be selecting 5 random subscribers to win a Welkin Moon. Details on this later. If you enjoy the video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me more than you know. With that being said, let's get right into it. Starting off with playstyles, the Drunken Bard is primarily used in a support sub-DPS role, focusing on elemental mastery, grouping, and swirl damage. This role is incredibly easy to play, consisting of casting his skill, followed by his burst, and swapping him off-field. With this style, the goal is to cause elemental reactions as well as disable and group your targets. Keep in mind, VENTI is strongest against big mobs consisting of smaller enemies, but can still function incredibly well against larger targets by offering shred and reaction damage. For most, this will be the go-to build. Although a support role may be the more common choice, Wind Daddy can also serve as a DPS. This consists of building him around crit and attack. While this build can be extremely effective and has the potential to outdamage his support role, it requires a serious amount of investment, including our favorite thing, Artifact RNG. For this role, VENTI will focus on crit stats, attack, EM, and ER. This build is intended for the extreme VENTI enthusiast that is willing to heavily invest in his stats. With that being said, I would strongly recommend opting for a support sub-DPS style, as his crit build is as sus as him blowing off Mama's clothes. Moving on to talent, normal attack, divine marksmanship. By rapidly tapping VENTI's normal attack, he will do up to 6 consecutive attacks dealing physical damage. By fully charging his shot, he will deal animo damage. Keep in mind though, for a support build, normal attacks will offer little to no value. Elemental skill, Skyward Sonnet. By tapping E, the Tone Deaf Bard will summon a wind circle at the enemy's location, dealing AoE animo damage, swirling any applied element, and launching smaller targets into the air. This skill will be regularly used before casting VENTI's burst in most rotations. By holding E, he summons a larger wind circle around himself, dealing AoE animo damage and swirling applied elements. After unlocking his A4 passive, this skill will additionally launch himself into the air. This skill is not practical during combat, but offers a great assistance to overworld exploration. Elemental Burst, Wind's Grand Ode. The Ventilator's bread and butter. The reason he's the best in his niche. He creates a massive black hole that sucks in opponents, deals animo damage, and continuously swirls for a total of 8 seconds. This can drastically help against big mobs, grouping many enemies to one location for maximum DPS. Additionally, if his burst comes in contact with another element, it'll be infused with that element, increasing his overall damage output. This skill creates a beautiful animation, including animo swirl and elemental damage. Note, while his burst is best against smaller mobs, it still offers a ton of value to unmovable enemies. When it comes to talent priority, it's pretty straightforward. Elemental Burst over Elemental Skill, followed by normal attack. The Drunken Bard is primarily a swirl damage unit. Swirl scales off of a character level as well as elemental mastery, so it's highly recommended to level him all the way to 90. With that being said, it means that the need to level his talents greatly diminishes, making him an extremely cheap character to build. Additionally, VENTI has another unspoken ability around his character level. Not only does it help his swirl damage, but it also determines the overall height of his vortex. For example, a level 60 VENTI's burst will lift the enemies to a significantly lower height than a level 90 VENTI, allowing more characters to reach the mobs that are caught in his burst depending on enemy level. While this may sound like an interesting idea, it is rarely necessary, and I strongly recommend taking him to his max level. A final essential note is that his burst snapshots. This means it holds all active buffs for the entire 8-second duration regardless of their initial expiration time, an extremely powerful ability. An important note to help speed up Venti's rotations is that you can cancel his elemental skill by immediately casting his burst. Ventusi will catch the particles from his skill while in his burst animation. Keep in mind the distance between you and the enemy may affect the time it takes to catch the particles, so practice this for maximum efficiency. This tip is fairly easy and will cut down on cast time, allowing for more potential DPS. Moving on to Ascensions. A1 Embrace the Winds. By holding Venti's elemental skill, he will additionally create an up current that lasts for 20 seconds. As mentioned before, this skill can be incredibly useful for overworld exploration, but is rarely if ever used during combat. A4 Eye of the Storm. When his burst completes, he immediately gains 15 energy. Additionally, if an elemental absorption occurs, 15 energy will be restored to all team members of this element. An absolutely amazing passive ability that not only helps his own ER needs, but that of the party as well. Utility passive Wind Rider. This passive reduces all party members' gliding stamina consumption by 20%, the true reason why gliding may actually be faster. Constellations, a hands-down must-have aspect for the Nameless Archon, and by must-have I mean literally none are needed to have an incredible Venti build. I strongly recommend the majority of players to stop at C0 as his kit is fully operational at its base constellation. With that being said, let's still cover them. C1 Splitting Gales. This con makes Venti shoot 2 additional arrows per aim shot. Each arrow deals 33% of the original arrow's damage. While in theory it sounds like more DPS, charge shots with Venti are rarely if ever used in combat. C2 Breeze of Reminiscence. When casting Venti's elemental skill, he will additionally shred 12% animo and physical on the affected targets. If the opponents are launched in the air, the shred doubles. Arguably one of his best cons and a very decent stopping point if you do want a little bit more utility out of him. C3 and C5. C3 increases his burst by 3 and C5 increases his skill by 3. Both offer additional DPS but are hardly worth the price point, and I would highly recommend saving your primos. C4 Hurricane of Freedom. Venti gains a 25% animo damage bonus for 10 seconds, an increase to his overall personal DPS. The majority of players will be running Venti in an EM build, so this damage increase is very minimal. C6 Storm of Defiance. Venti's burst additionally shreds the enemy's animo resistance by 20%. If his burst infuses an element, that element will also gain a 20% resistance decrease. Overall, a pretty solid con for support, utility, and personal damage. The problem is, it's his 6th one. This con is really just for the biggest of Bard enthusiasts. Moving on to weapons, Venti has a number of options, and while I may not cover every single one, please comment below with any further questions. I am here to help, and I do my absolute best to respond to all comments. With that being said, let's kick it off with his free-to-play choices. Starting off with the Windbloom Ode, an extremely solid option if you happen to be playing the game during its event release. The weapon has an EM main stat, and its passive works extremely well with its common rotations of elemental skill followed by burst. The major downside is if you miss this weapon, you can never get it again. Favonius Warbow, Fadge, as always, can be a great choice for most support characters, and Venti is certainly not excluded. If you're lacking the needed ER requirements, this bow will offer an incredible stat stick as well as the unreal utility it offers by helping your entire team with energy needs. Raven Bow, an amazing 3-star option that offers an EM main stat and a very usable passive. Since Venti is primarily going to be in reaction-based teams, he can often utilize the increased damage from Pyro or Hydra application. Additionally, this is a very easy weapon to obtain and refine, further increasing its overall value. King Squire, a craftable weapon from Sumeru. If you have none of the previously mentioned options, this can hold you over. It offers an attack % main stat and a passive that he can utilize due to his burst having a snapshot mechanic. Now that we have discussed his free-to-play options, let's move on to the more top-tier ones. Stringless. In most cases, this weapon is Windaddy's best in slot. The main EM stat is incredible for most Venti builds, and he can fully utilize the passive abilities. As you gain refinements, the weapon's viability further increases. Even though this is a gacha weapon, it is reasonable to assume that most players will pick it up at some point. Elegy for the End, another extremely good option. This weapon offers a high ER stat as well as guaranteed EM from its passive. Additionally, it offers a big EM and attack buff for your entire team, which Venti can easily obtain through his standard gameplay, an excellent 5-star choice. Skyward Heart. For those who are aiming to run a crit Venti, this is your go-to option. This weapon offers a great stat stick, crit rate from its main stat, and crit damage from its passive. A ton of value towards a crit build. Honorable mentions consist of Verdescent Hunt, Hunter's Path, Sackbow, Fontaine's new craftable Song of Stillness, and Moon's Moon. I do not recommend these over previously mentioned choices, but if you either do not have the other bows or currently have them in use, these can be suitable options. Moving on to artifacts and stat prioritization. When it comes to Venti's necessary stats, it's pretty straightforward. For an Elemental Mastery build, you want an EM Gob, EM Sands, and EM Circlet. Keep in mind, even 4-star EM artifacts are preferable over other main stats. For Flower and Plume, you want to focus on EM and ER. ER should always be a focus in substats for all pieces, but can be completely ignored if you met your energy recharge requirements. For a crit build Venti, you want an Animal Goblet, Attack Sands, and Crit Rate or Crit Damage Circlet. Substat focus will be crit rate or crit damage, attack percent, and energy recharge. Unlike trying to get Venti to pay his bar tab at the Angel share, his artifacts are pretty straightforward to understand. Verdescent Veneraire, the Drunken Bard's go-to set. This set not only offers animo damage from its 2-piece, but its 4-piece is completely game-breaking. The 4-piece set offers 60% additional swirl damage as well as 40% elemental res shred to the infused element. For a primarily swirl support character, the utility of this skill is incomparable. Note, even if you're running a crit build, 4-piece VV is still best in slot due to the animo and swirl damage buff. Undoubtedly, you will also be doing reaction damage, furthering its usefulness for all build types. 4-piece Instructor, a very decent 4-piece option for an Elemental Mastery build Venti. The 2-piece offers 80 EM and the 4-piece buffs the EM of your entire team, helping increase overall reaction damage. This is a great starting set before you have a full-piece 4VV. 2-piece, 2-piece, a viable option if nothing else is available, but I would still strongly recommend aiming for 4-piece for Descent. 2-piece, 2-piece is more ideal for a crit style build where you can increase his personal damage. Support options consist of 2-piece EM, 2-piece EM, 2-piece EM, 2-piece VV, 2-piece Emblem, 2-piece EM. Crit options should have focus around 2-piece VV and 2-piece Noblesse. In the end, my recommendation stands strong about always going for a full 4-piece VV set. The Animal Archon has amazing versatility when it comes to team comps. He can be slotted in most teams that require crowd control or a VV user. With the addition of Dendro, the team comps feel almost endless. With that being said, he does fit extremely well in specific ones. I will be covering multiple team comps and solid rotations. If I do not cover one that you are interested in or you are curious about more advanced rotations, drop a comment below. I'm happy to further discuss. Morgana, one of Venti's top tier options. This team is an absolute powerhouse due to many factors, but primarily because of the synergy between Venti and Ganyu's quadratic scaling. This team consists of Ganyu, Mona, Venti, and Diona. In this freeze comp, you can opt to swap out Diona for Shenhe, essentially trading comfort for increased DPS. Ayaka Freeze is another absolutely incredible comp and one of my personal favorites. It consists of Ayaka, Kokomi, Shenhe, and Venti. This team groups and immobilizes most targets. Kokomi is there for amazing hydro application, healing, and the ability to use thrilling tails. Ayaka can easily hit the elevated enemies from Venti's burst, resulting in great synergy. This creates a power team of supports, extremely comfy gameplay, and insane damage output. Yoimiya VV Vape. Vaporize. Always a powerful reaction. Comboing it with the Ventilator can make it even better. The team consists of Yoimiya, Xingqiu, Venti, and Benny. Benny's buffing and healing, Xingqiu's off-field hydro application, Venti's grouping combined with Yoimiya's rapid attacks create a beautiful symphony of destruction. For this team, it is highly recommended to run a 4-piece Crimson Witch on Yoimiya, allowing for 0 downtime on her burst ticks and the ability to transfer its effects after defeating an enemy. Regardless, a 4-piece Shim build Yoimiya can still have great success. Neuvillette Electrocharged. The Judge himself has an unbelievably powerful and fun team with Venti. It consists of Neuvillette, Fischl, Venti, and Kokomi. This Electrocharged team offers a ton of on and off-field damage, amazing healing, which is all brought together with Venti's grouping and VV buffing capabilities. Note, if you don't have Kokomi, Kuki can be a solid replacement. Ayato Electrocharge. Another amazing team comp consists of Ayato, Fischl, Venti, and Beidou. Much like Ganyu, Ayato's burst offers quadratic scaling, synergizing perfectly with Venti's vortex. This team has great electro reactions, damage over time, grouping, and shielding. Note, swap Beto for Kuki if you don't have 100% uptime or are struggling to stay alive. Hyperbloom. This wouldn't be an updated guide if it did not include Dendro reactions. With the release of Sumeru, we have gotten an entire new element, and despite what many think, there is still plenty of room for support such as Venti to further enhance their effectiveness. A solid Hyperbloom comp consists of Venti, Yao Yao, Kuki, and Xingqiu. This is considered a quick swap team, a very fun playstyle involving rapid gameplay and beautiful visuals. Another extremely viable team comp is Lisa, Fischl, Yao Yao, and Venti. This team offers heavy electro application, with Venti completely solving Lisa's small burst issue, all complemented by Yao Yao's sustainability and Dendro reactions. It is very free-to-play friendly, making it great for all players. Overall, Venti's versatility allows him to play in an absolute ton of different teams. Some notable options are Mono Geo for the synergy with Albedo due to quadratic scaling, Mono Pyro with a double VV setup, and an extremely wide variety of freeze comps. Now that you understand how our favorite tone-deaf bard operates, we are left with an incredibly important question. Is he still viable? The answer is a resounding yes. While others like Kazuha or Sucrose may offer better utility for different scenarios, no one offers crowd control quite like Venti. His grouping, immobilizing, and quadratic scaling make him one of a kind. Despite that, it would be hard to call him a must-pull character. A lot of units can offer similar value in different scenarios, and if you are tight for primos, set on a VV grouper, and in need of a different utility for your roster, it might be better to save. I will, however, say that if you do pull Lord Barbados, the God of Freedom, you surely will not be disappointed. As always, if you are spending, be responsible and stay within your means. Thank you guys so much for watching my in-depth Venti guide. This wine-drinking, enemy-displacing, bar-tab-skipping bard has had a warm place in our hearts since the very beginning of our journey into VOD. If you are looking for the satisfaction of a character that can absolutely destroy big mobs with incredible ease, he may be the one for you. As mentioned before, for the first time ever, I will be choosing 5 random subscribers to win a Welkin Moon. Winners will be selected in 7 days from the release of this video. To be eligible, you must be subscribed, drop a like, and comment on the video. I will respond to your comment to let you know if you're a winner. I hope you guys enjoyed my guide. Venti has been around a long time, and I felt an updated guide would be a great asset to the community. If you're looking for more specific advice on your builds, I do account reviews every Wednesday live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Trevitogaming. I appreciate everyone who took the time to watch this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.